Hi, hello, hey, God. All right, hey, everybody, welcome to Jeff Has Cool Friends. I'm Jeff from. I got to learn how to start a show. I'm Jeff from Jeff Has Cool Friends. You get it. You saw it. You clicked on this. You're listening to it. You know that. I don't understand why I have to keep trying to introduce the show. I've never done it right. My bad. Anyway, I have a very cool friend with me. One of my very favorite people on the planet. Somebody that I really only get to see every 2 weeks, but it should be more. She's super, super funny. She is an incredibly talented swimwear designer, fashion designer, a pinball wizard, and also a super nerd and bagel snob. Ladies and gentlemen, Cory Casella. Cory, how are you?
Hi, Jeff. I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. I'm so glad I finally got to have you on the show. You have a regular, like a people job,
Yeah,
which
I think I'm the only person in Los Angeles actually who does.
it's also one of those things where I will break my recording schedule for you. I will record after hours just for you. I've met you through pinball.
hmm
We are in the same pinball league. I believe you are my third guest from the league.
Oh, wow. A little insulting, actually.
No, it's not because I have asked you several times and we have not been able to schedule it. So you were the first person I asked to do the show.
I want the names of who got on before me.
Andrew Clokout, uh,
Fine.
at Let's Park It, and and Dan Backadall.
Fine.
Yeah, all
Fine.
interesting in their own right. And
People with much
finally, a couple of white guys that I can have on a podcast because the podcast sphere needs more of us.
people with much bigger Instagram followers than me, I'm
I'm
sure.
not interested in Instagram following. My show is about who I think is interesting. If Instagram following was a thing, I'd kill myself because my Instagram got deleted, and that's been fun. But when I found out your job, I became fascinated because I know little to nothing about this. My roommate works in fashion, but not your world, right? So you design, is it exclusively swimwear?
It is exclusively swimwear, cover-ups, anything having to do with the beach, the ocean. I have in my past done some surf wear, some board shorts, stuff along those lines, but
For
never,
boys?
not yet, but never really ventured outside of the swimwear world. I've been in swimwear exclusively for about 18 years now, which is
Really?
crazy. I know, I barely look
Yeah,
25.
I was going to say you do not look like a person who's been doing a people job for 18 years.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but my first real job was an assistant. It was actually an intern at a company called Swimwear Anywhere. And I had tried to get hired as an assistant designer, and they basically were like, "You're not qualified for this job." But they liked me, made me an intern, and then I did everything I could to show them I was qualified. And then 18 years later, I'm still designing swimwear. So
So I don't know, like if you're comfortable like telling about the places that you've designed swimwear, but you worked for like I know Roxy, was that one of them?
yes,
Which is
so
like Girl Quicksilver, right?
yes. So I've actually worked for a lot of big names. I would say that the biggest name that I worked for would be Calvin Klein, which was early on in my career after I left Swimwear Anywhere. I had spent 7 years there, kind of climbing the ranks a little bit, and then I was hired to work for a company that had just acquired the license for Calvin Klein Swim. And it was the company's first time doing swimwear. So I was actually hired to launch swimwear at that company, and that was designing for Calvin Klein.
So
Uh,
real quick,
yes.
what does designing for Calvin? Because that Calvin Klein tends to be very simple, right?
Yes. So it's kind of a complicated, it's confusing for people that aren't in the design industry because you hear a brand and you think of what you know about that brand.
Mhm.
But ultimately, especially in today's fashion world, a lot of it has changed. So the company that I was designing for had a very big relationship with Macy's and other
Mhm.
large but like mid-tier department stores, and they partnered with Macy's on Calvin Klein being their biggest brand. So that was really ultimately who I was designing for, was not necessarily Calvin Klein's like couture high fashion end, but more of like what was going to be the value item at Macy's.
Something pricey at the mall, right? Like if it's going to be like Macy's, right? It's like
Yeah,
good
basically.
quality mall stuff. I ask because like I have a lot of questions about this because I'm actually just fascinated by it, like about like what those things are. Because when I think of Calvin Klein, I think of like neutral tones, basic.
Mhm.
But like I don't think of particularly interest like floral patterns. I don't think of that. So like then I think like, oh, so is it like the cut that is something that is very specifically important? Is it sticking with a classic motif, or is it staying with the current fashion zeitgeist?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of all of it. So you're correct. The Calvin Klein aesthetic is very clean and
Like
classic.
black, white, gray, right? Like
Basically, yeah, and then there's always some accent colors, something to pop. What we would call editorial, basically, is like not necessarily the volume driving items, but the items that you might see in a magazine as something eye-catching, and then you go, "Oh, that's
oh, so like a unique flourish, but something a
yeah."
little bit outside the lines.
So actually, that was pretty cool. I didn't spend a lot of time designing for Calvin Klein because that role at that company was not really a good fit for me in my career and personality wise. But one of the
I would
cool,
like to know more about that.
yeah, well,
Because
one of
like you said but and then you moved on. Is this one of those things that I should not press? Because
no, I mean, I have spent a lot of years at different companies where I have felt like the fit was a lot better for me.
okay.
But what I was going to say is that the coolest thing about that role was that I had designed a suit that ended up as a billboard in Times Square. And that was the first time in my career I ever really got to experience something like that. And then throughout my career, I've had other items featured in Vogue magazine, WGSN, other
Mm.
publications.
You have
But
like a lookbook for that or whatever? Like a scrapbook of those things?
I mean, I keep tears as part of my portfolio. Actually, I know your listeners don't get to see the video in my of what the inside of my living room looks like, but if you look right there on the
Okay.
wall,
Yeah, there looks like a magazine ad.
that is a magazine ad of Jessica Simpson wearing one of my designs that was featured in WGSN. So that was actually something I tore out of a WGSN and framed and put on my wall.
Okay, what is a WGSN?
So W sorry, not WGSN, WWD, which is Women's Wear Daily.
Okay.
You're gonna have to edit that so I don't sound like a total idiot.
Absolutely not. Sam, leave it in.
Okay. So Women's Wear Daily is a major publication that will highlight what's happening in the fashion world anytime there's big sales of companies, licensing information, like a lot of basically the ins and outs of the fashion industry. So almost like the Wall Street Journal
For fashion.
fashion, basically.
Like, because that's one of the things that I'm actually really like. It's such a fascinating space for me because I don't know if you've met me. I'm not very fashionable, right? Like I'm just not. I am who I am,
Yeah.
and it is that. But like I'm fascinated by things I don't know about.
Mhm.
So like with stuff like this, like so you go to work, right? And aside from like, whatever BS red tape you have to deal with because it's any job ever, right? You're designing, right? Or you're overseeing designs, you're doing those things. So the designs that you're working on right now,
Mhm.
when are those going to be like available to buy?
So
Like,
right now,
what's that like? What's that process like?
um,
I'm so fat. Like, I don't know anything about this. I know a lot of my listenership skews male. And don't worry, folks, we're going to talk about Lord of the Rings and pinball. But this is really cool. Like, I really want to know about this. Like, this is such a blank piece of information for me.
so we're really working usually around a year in advance. So the collections that I'm working on currently are basically slated to hit the stores December of 2025, March of 2026, that
Okay.
sort of timeline. There's a lot that goes into it. And it's actually one of my biggest pet peeves when I tell people that this is my busy season. They always say, oh, because you're getting ready for summer. And it's like, no, that's not.
Yeah.
First of all,
That stuff's already been designed.
yeah, I'm not a retailer. I'm not selling product. I'm not,
Yeah.
trying to sell this summer what I'm working on. It's that we are studying trends and working in advance and working with our overseas partner. And there's a lot that goes into getting a collection made, especially because the design that I do really does stem from concept, color. I do hand sketches. I pull a lot of inspiration, and then I'm working with a pattern maker to, make sure that what I'm envisioning can be made. We do like months of fit process on live models, going back and forth with our overseas partners to make any revisions that need to be done. And that's just on the silhouette design portion. On top of that, there's the color and print design where I'm working with artists, textile artists, I'm working with art vendors, I'm purchasing art, I'm having artists create original art based on my inspiration. And then we, again, have to prepare all of that to be sent overseas so that we can start getting it printed and making comments and making sure that the color that they're
Is
making.
it dye sublimation? Is that the process?
No. Sublimation does happen in a very small capacity, but most of what I do is either wet printing or digital printing, sometimes rotary printing.
And those are all what those are. I'm realizing those are like fabric terms, right? And
I'm
so
sorry. Yes.
I'm
So
realizing it's jargon, and I like dye sublimation was the process that the old company Sideshow I used to work for on the like the superhero outfits and stuff.
Mhm.
When they wanted to color in shading in abs and stuff like that, it would literally be like an injection of a liquid that would then form the stylish pattern, right? Or a gas, right?
Yeah, so most of what we do is set up for screen printing.
Okay.
So, and actually, this is a fun fact. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but my background in school was fine arts with a concentration on screen printing. So
Really?
yes, I didn't actually go to fashion school. I studied fine art and did a lot of silk screening, and a lot of my art was revolving around fashion because fashion has always been kind of something that drove me as a person and inspired me. So I was making fine art that was meant to look like interpretations of magazine ads, and my senior
So
thesis.
like Alphonse Mucha kind of love
I mean, kind
or
of, yeah. I personally I love Mucha. I have been to the Mucha Museum in Prague. It's really incredible. We're
the
definitely,
museum. Yeah.
yeah, if you ever have an opportunity in Prague and need something to do, go to the Mucha Museum. It's really fascinating.
Let's all
As,
go to Prague. Let's
as
go.
yeah,
We'll
I
make
mean,
a field trip.
a lot of what he was doing was,
Advertising,
yeah,
realism.
but lithography. So giant stones, which when you look at some of these final pieces of art, they're like 6 feet, 8 feet tall by 4 feet wide. Like they'd be going on walls. And it's just really incredible to think about what was being done at that time. And and we're like kind of going off on a tangent, but we're really talking about
The
lost.
show's open for tangents. That's fine. Thank God for linoleum now
Yeah.
for
I mean,
Rhino cut printing
it's
and stuff. Yeah.
it's just really like people today are not making art as beautiful as they used to.
I mean,
And
it's different. It's just different, right?
yeah,
They still are. It's just the zeitgeist shifts every time, right? Like, I mean, last guest, Andrea Gazetta, very unique, very like
mm,
Polly Pocket with a hint of death mixed in there is a very fascinating mix, and they're beautiful, but they're obviously very different. It's,
yeah,
it is what it is, the evolution.
right, of course. And I don't mean to diminish anyone's hard work or
Yeah,
art.
how dare you talk back? No, I was
But
just gonna say, like, it's just different. You're right.
it
It is
is,
different.
yeah, there's definitely a lot of lost arts, and lithography is for sure
Yeah.
one of them. But my senior thesis was a series of life-size paper dolls and that I had silk screened. I'd screen printed them, and each one was about 6 feet tall by 3 feet wide. And the dolls themselves were based on actual skaters in the roller derby during the roller derby revival of like 2005.
Ah, the Derbissance. I guess roller sans would have actually been better, but same, edit that part. Make me look good.
Make me look bad, make you look good.
That's why it's my show. No.
And yeah, I
No,
mean,
no,
look,
make me look bad. I'm really good at that. But yeah, no, so like because that's so how do you now this is like the other things that I was thinking of because you're like, yeah, that, right? Like I have next year stuff, but like what happens if the style of bathing suit that you're designing is no longer fashionable? Like, does that happen? Or do you do like classic, like two pieces, or is it like the cut of where the thigh would be? Like string is more popular. Like, how do you know what's gonna be
So
wanted?
we do a lot of partnering with our sales teams and our buying teams, and we make sure that we are merchandising aligned with a good amount of background on what our best sellers are historically, as well as injecting newness. And a lot of times I tell people we're really not reinventing the wheel. Nobody is really changing their style completely 180 between one summer and another. So what we're focusing on is what's working for the brand that we're designing for. How do I keep her coming back to the store to buy a new swimsuit when she knows her fit, what she likes? How do I update it? How do I make it relevant to today's trends? And it's a lot of subtle things like you notice when you're working with vendors. I work with a lot of art vendors, and they come in every few weeks with their collection. And the way that works is there's a salesperson, and they work for a company that has a team of designers that's studying what's happening on the runway. They're studying what's happening in the trend
Mhm. Yeah, that's what my
publication.
roommate does that. Like
Yeah,
she works in sales for
gotcha.
fashion. Yeah.
So I'll be working with a vendor, and you start to notice that the print vendors have a lot of the same trends, even though they're working from completely different studios, sometimes in completely different countries. You see a lot of the same types of florals, or the same types of stripes, or the same types of, conversational prints. So a conversational print is like when you see a pair of shorts that has martini glasses all over it. It's conversational because like, oh hey, look at your
It's to
martini.
inspire
Yeah,
conversation. Oh,
I guess. Yeah. So you start to notice a lot of the same trends, and then you kind of know, all right, well, if I'm seeing a lot of this same type of floral, then I should probably be looking at how I can incorporate this into my designs because it's a trend that a lot of people are going to be looking for.
does the artist in you die a little when you have to pertain to a trend? Or
No,
do you, because like when it comes to like fine art and stuff like that, a lot of it is like understanding rules so they can be broken, right? Like that's a lot of that. So do you have that disconnect of like not wanting to break those rules and to follow the trends because it's a different kind of existence?
no, not really. I mean, having been in this industry for as long as I have, I don't take anything personally. I was at a meeting last week where I was presenting a collection, and I said to the buyers, you really don't have to worry about hurting my feelings. If there's a print in here that you don't like, pull it out, we can walk away from it. I think that you have to separate yourself a little bit when you're in the business of staying in business. And, if I were working on my own collection, which is something that I ultimately dream of doing and would love to make happen in the near future, it might be a little bit different because I would be standing for something and saying this is what sets me apart from the other small businesses that you could be shopping from. But when I'm designing for a brand that is surviving on being in department stores or being commercially sold, you want to make sure that you're designing something that people are going to buy.
Oh,
Because
yeah,
what what good is it if people aren't buying it?
that makes sense.
And
Yeah, I don't. Okay.
I think a big part of being a designer is being able to separate yourself from your personal feelings.
Okay. So,
Most of what I design, I might not wear,
okay.
but I'm designing for, like, it's switching your mindset and knowing, okay, who is my demographic for this brand that I'm working on currently, and how do I address the trend for this customer, and being able to separate yourself from personal taste.
What would you name your company, your line?
So I've thought about this a lot.
Figured you would have.
Yeah, so I had started to kind of put something into work in 2019.
Then
And,
what happened?
and then famously, we all ran into a little financial trouble shortly after. So I was operating under the name CC Swim, but spelled out
Is it
C.
SEA?
No, it was
Because
C.
that's literally the name I was going to suggest.
Yeah, I
Was
mean,
SEA
so that's part of the issue is it's like a little too obvious.
or
No.
SEESEA?
So what I really would love to name it, are you holding for applause?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're almost there. We can keep workshopping it.
Yeah.
I grew up going to the beach with my family.
Which
So
beach?
I am from a little place called Long Island, and we grew up going to a beach called Woodhull Landing Beach Club. And my family, it was a private beach on the north.
Oh.
I know, I'm very fancy. It was on the North Shore of Long Island. If you don't know what that means, it means that it was on the Long Island Sound, so you could see Connecticut from my beach. There were no big waves, and instead of fine sand, we had rocks that we had to step over.
Oh, it's
And
like the Riviera.
sure. So Long Island is, I bet you didn't think that we were going to talk about Long Island.
No, I kind of knew we would because you bring it up a lot.
I don't bring it up that much.
You post about how great New York is on your Instagram, not zero times.
Okay. Well, so Long Island is an island. A lot of people don't actually realize that. They just think it's like kind of a
Like
cheeky name.
Rhode Island.
Yeah. And the North Shore of Long Island is on the Long Island Sound, and the South Shore of Long Island is on the Atlantic Ocean. And so there's a very different beach between the North Shore and the South Shore. And I grew up going to a North Shore beach called Woodhull Landing. And so the more that I've been removed from Long Island, the more nostalgic I've been for it. And so I've thought that it would be kind of nice to maybe consider naming my company Woodhull Swim. And it would be like a nod and an homage to my mom because she was the reason that we went to the beach
Oh,
every day. So it was like every morning, my mom would wake us up in the summer and say, "Wake up, we're going to the beach." And that was it. I had to put on a bathing suit, pack the car, and we were at the beach every day. So that is something that I've thought a lot about. How do I bring my mom into what I'm doing?
mhm.
Because, her and I had a very close relationship before I lost her, and she was always my biggest fan and always wanted to see me succeed. And I think that that would be the way to pay her back in her memory.
Oh, it's really sweet. That's too nice. You're too nice. It's too nice. I prefer dirt bags on my show.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about the dirtbaggy stuff in that. That's really great. I like that's kind of like a part of this whole thing is just me trying to like learn more, like because I think that's fascinating. I love learning about things I have no clue about, and this to me is something that like even even in like the design thing, it would be the last thing that I would know. Like it would be like right before like roller skates would be like of things that I have no information about, right? Like for
Yeah.
obvious reasons, like.
Yeah.
I'm a dumbass. I'm too busy learning about Spider-Man. Like, how am I supposed to learn about swimwear? But that is so like, is swimwear, was this like when you started, you were like, oh, this is like a passion I didn't even know about, or were you like, I would like to do swimwear?
I've had a series of events in my life that have worked out in a way that made it feel like they were meant to happen. And I hate to say that because I don't believe in destiny. I don't believe that everyone has a path. I don't believe in that sort of thing. But I do believe that there were moments in my life that felt right in a way that it was like, okay, this is what was supposed to happen for me.
Canonical events, I believe, is what the Marvel uses.
Yeah, I mean, and talking about my schooling, having a Bachelor of Fine Arts in printmaking is completely worthless. No offense to anyone that has one of those degrees, but it's like if
I,
you,
I will say I've had people on here who are very, very famous print artists that were
well,
like,
I know, but
cut.
like,
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of my point is
It's
like,
just very rare,
I
right?
never
It's
want
like playing basketball in high school.
Right. It wasn't what I wanted to be. I didn't want to go on to be a print artist, a silk screen
Mhm.
artist. That wasn't what my path was. It was my BFA in my mind was maybe going to lead me to an MFA, was going to, I thought about working in galleries and museums for a while. It's kind of that typical like being young and not really knowing what you want. And when I was in
Just
high
figuring it out.
school, I knew I either wanted to be in art or fashion. And I ultimately wanted to go to a school that offered both so I could figure it out in school, because that's what a lot of people do. But it didn't work out for me. I didn't end up at my dream college. I didn't end up at a college that offered fashion design. And so I got that, fix of fashion by making art about fashion. And then when I came out of school, I was like, what am I going to do with this degree? Because how do I even make a living with this degree? And I feel like our generation was kind of fed that lie,
Oh
like
boy, were we sold
go
college.
to go to college and you'll get a job. Like and that was what our generation was taught. And no one taught us how to take that degree and turn it into a job. It was just like, well, you have a college education, you're set. And then I came out of college and I was like, now what? And I had tried to figure out what I was going to do, having a very specific educational background that wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do as a career. And I had been waiting tables and doing hotel reception, and I found this,
All the jobs that an art major is
yeah.
forced to take to pay the bills. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had found this job posting on Craigslist of all places that was describing a position for a swimwear designer, and I applied to it on a whim, knowing that I wasn't qualified for it, but I was like, everything in this job description is things that I know how to do and that I would love to do. And, it was like I had a understanding of sewing and construction, and I understood trends and I understood color and I understood all of those things. So why couldn't I do that job, right? And that's like what I was telling you, is that they eventually did call me. Took months, but then I guess they found my resume through Craigslist and they brought me in. And I was just so excited to have like my first real
Yeah.
job interview at a real company. And, in a way, I felt a little bit defeated because right away they were like, you're not qualified for this job. But I thought, then why did you bring me here? Because
Yeah.
you have my resume, which doesn't have any
Yeah.
experience on it, and you have all of my background.
I
And
think the secret that a lot of people never, and I apologize for interrupting, but I feel like the secret that a lot of people don't like admitting, especially in the corporate world, is most knowledge about working in a corporate world is provided through action, not through education.
yeah.
Like you're learning on the job. That is like 85% of it. Like I always say, like the job that prepared me best for teaching, and like this, it was never any of the childcare jobs. It wasn't the history degree. It was literally being a bouncer.
Yeah.
Because
I,
yeah,
I mean, it was really funny because, like, I guess I wowed them a little bit in my interview because they liked me,
very
and
affable.
they were like, they were like, we can't give you this job, but we really like you and we'd like to see what you can do. And they kind of created this position for me where I was just doing some graphic design, making sales materials, and then every day going to the designers and saying, what can I help you with? What can I do? And showing that I could do the job that I wanted. And the funny thing is, I think that what did get me that job, even though my background was in fine arts, was my senior thesis was these life-size paper dolls, and all of the girls were in bathing suits.
Perfect.
And just like real paper dolls. So they come in their bathing suits and then they have interchangeable outfits. And they were so impressed with that that they were like, well,
It's a no-brainer.
I'm sure we can figure something out for you. And I stayed with that company for 7 years and I kept working hard and kept getting promoted and learning new things and learning new skills and taking on everything that I could. I learned sourcing, I learned about fabrics, I learned about printing commercially. I learned all of those things and then took it with me. So
Nice. And now you've been working in this for almost 20 years. Like
I know.
that's a banger career. Like that's really great. Is this where do you want to like is the evolution the way you see it to evolve to that you are the one that runs your own swimwear company, or are you like, after, 5 more years I want to move on, or you don't have to answer that in case anybody that you work with is listening to the show. But like, like I always like wonder like have you had the itch at all to move, or is this something that you're like I found my spot and I really love it?
The reason why I moved to Los Angeles was to start my own swimwear company. And
Okay.
it was something I had wanted to do for years. When I left New York, I was designing for Jessica Simpson, and I had been designing for Jessica Simpson for like 4 or 5 years. And I loved that job. I loved working on such a fun brand. Jessica Simpson is a huge celebrity name in the fashion world,
Mhm.
carried at most major department stores. And that was the job I went to from Calvin Klein. And
Uh-huh.
I felt like it was such a great fit and I loved it and I loved what I was doing. And I took a lot of pride in it. And then, I started to feel like I do want to start my own thing, but I didn't see it happening in New York. It was the type of thing where I felt like if this is something I really want to do, I need to set myself up in all of the ways to make it a reality. And the truth is, there's a lot more domestic manufacturing happening in Los Angeles and Southern California. There's a lot more opportunity to do those things at a lower expense than if I tried to do it in New York.
Okay. So yeah, it's
I
practical.
Yeah, and I moved to LA for a job, and that job didn't end up working out, but it was what got me out here. And then I thought to myself, okay, I'll start a 5-year plan starting now. And that was in 2017. So obviously,
5-year plan deferred for a couple of years, but
yeah, obviously we lost a few years, no fault of our own. And
it was
so
my fault.
the global
Yeah,
pandemic.
yeah, that was me. That was me. I was
Um,
long story, did a whole thing in China. I'm sorry.
So it's like a funny thing because it's like you have to adapt. And I think I've struggled with my own personal feelings about like, am I a failure for not getting that off the ground when that's what I moved here for? And I've also spent a lot of time wondering if Los Angeles was the right place for me. Obviously,
Oh boy, is this an echo chamber now?
Hey,
Boy.
obviously, you know that I'm a New Yorker, and so there's been a lot of thoughts in the last few years about do I move back to New York? Do I go back to be closer to my loved ones? But I always kind of felt like if I went back to New York without getting to that next step in my personal goals, would I consider myself a failure? So,
No,
like, that's kind of the thing that has
you would not be.
kept me here. No, and
I'm
I
not
know.
asking you to leave. I'm just saying no, you wouldn't have been.
And
And
that's like us as humans, right? Like
yeah,
we inherently think of ourselves as failures when we're not achieving what we want.
I
And
came here for comedy and I rarely perform now
yeah.
because like podcasting pays the bills. I find the world of comedy to be not particularly great these days.
But
And
how much am I getting paid for this?
oh, yeah, well, we're paying you an exposure, but
Oh,
I'll buy you food on Thursday night.
I'm just joking.
But I will.
Okay.
And then things. I was at your birthday party. That's nice,
I
right?
know. Yeah, no, you've given me many gifts
I
over the
give
years
presents,
of our
right?
friendship. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I'm sure that you also know this about me, but one of my favorite things to do is make men uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's not gonna work with me. So you could try all you want, but like I live a very emotionally naked life. So the discomfort doesn't necessarily exist for me. And I think you've learned that, right?
Oh yeah, of course.
I think that might be why we're such good friends. Because
Yes.
I'm like, do your worst because I'm fine.
Yeah.
Speaking of your worst, just kidding. I don't know if you know this, but I have producers for the show. Isn't that funny?
Uh,
All they
I don't know what that means.
So what happens is, I'm so glad you asked, Corey. If you head over to patreon.com/Jeff May for a very affordable fee, you can produce this show. And we have 20 producers on this show. And for a very, very nominal fee, I will say their name on an episode of this show. And we can even discuss it. So, for example, we can say a big shout out to Funky J Mostly comes out at night. Mostly. See, we got an Aliens reference right off the top of this. You like Aliens? You ever see that movie?
I saw the first one, Alien.
You didn't see the James Cameron one? It's great. You should see it.
Uh, maybe. Do you have it?
A lot more guns in that one. The first one's more like a haunted house, and this
Okay.
one's more like a war movie. That's very good.
Okay.
A big shout out to, and this one's gonna be fun. The enchanted wandering unpierced left nipple that only goes up to 11. Cider served at room temperature with just a pinch of cinnamon. Somebody paid me money to say that, and
That's someone's name? That's
yeah,
that's a producer's name?
that is a producer's name. I will debase myself for a very affordable amount of money.
Okay.
I mean, it really averages out to like 12.50 to do that, and you get all the other stuff on there. It's an insane deal. A big shout out to Call Me Sean or whatever. A big shout out to the Oatmeal Savage. You an oatmeal fan?
No, I don't really like breakfast food unless it's bagels.
That explains what I said at the beginning of the show. A big shout out to watch me use these prehensile nipples to pick up pennies off the floor. Not gonna lie, there's a lot of nipple talk in the
Yeah,
producer.
that's a second nipple.
Yeah, it's the last one, but yeah. A big shout out to check out this month's Nerd with Dre and Jeff. You met Dre.
I did meet
You
Dre.
played Batman pinball with Dre.
Yes, Batman 66.
You did. You played Batman 66 pinball with Dre. We co-host a show Nerd. We did Marvel versus DC this month. Next month, I believe we're going to be doing Youngblood. It's a comic book season. So that's very exciting.
Dre was a very quick learner at pinball. I was so impressed. He picked it up like at first he was like a little uncomfortable and then immediately he was nailing shots and I was like, okay.
Yeah, he was great. He's listening to this right now, so I'm going to be telling him. He also didn't know that you don't talk to somebody while they're playing competitively.
Mm.
So he was talking to me on my last ball of Elton John, and I just yelled. And I had just gotten like the high score of the day before the tournament. And then I was just like, please stop talking to me. And then immediately I drained. And I was like, and I'm just like, it's fine. It was fine. It's fine. We're both not having great seasons, actually.
Oh, I'd prefer not to talk about that.
We're going to, because we're both kind of eating shit. Like you're a much better player than I am. When I'm good, I'm great, but I'm very spotty. Like I'm very, very like all over the place. My consistency is not there.
Yeah.
A big shout out to blacktulipmassage.com. If you got, I know, if you guys are in Central Massachusetts, you definitely want to get a massage from Julie. She is a damn wonder. She is just so good, and she gets the knots out of my back in ways that the dude masseurs out here can't do. I was like, I like to do my own thing. My name is Rain, and I'm like, can you just work this knot out of my back, please? Actually, I'm going to align your chi. I don't want that. I want you to harm me until I feel better. You get massages a lot, or
No.
no?
No.
You don't like it.
I'm
You're
not
making a reaction like that. That's like an offensive question.
I'm not good at relaxing. The thought of relaxing unnerves me.
That's very New York of you.
I know.
Hey, I'm stressing out over here.
Yeah, I got a massage one time and I was like, this is not fun. But I will say, like, I do like when I have a romantic partner, which is very rarely these days, but when they are like, massaging a little in the neck and the shoulders, and I'm like, okay, I like this. I like being touched. It's nice. But I don't want to pay someone to like destroy my back and then feel sore for 3 days.
I dated a woman who would always ask me to rub her back, and then I'd be like, me? She's like, eh. I'd be like, thanks. Thanks. Great to be living on this one-way street here. I like a massage, but I definitely need it to like, I do very, very strenuous activities that definitely cause big knots on my back and things like that. So like, I'm like, sometimes I need someone to work the shit out of it. I don't get enough. I need to go to blacktulipmassage.com and get myself one. A big shout out to Dan Hackroyd, Norm from Cheers. Ever watch Cheers?
Yeah, of course.
They got cards. Cheers has a new card set that came out. I want to open them.
Like playing cards?
No,
Oh,
like
like,
trading cards, like I do the
yeah,
other game. You know, the
yeah,
other thing we do.
I must break you.
Yeah, yeah.
See, I pay attention.
I'm bummed you have a real people job because I would have you come and do a break on a Wednesday at 1 p.m. with me
I
Pacific time.
have some packages of cards that I could break.
You do. What do you have?
I think, hold on.
Go ahead.
Let me find them.
Go ahead. We're gonna pipe in some music while you're gone.
Okay.
All right.
I don't know if you're ready for these cards that I have.
I'm ready. I'm ready for you to show me the cards that you have.
Okay, so I have Pee-wee's Playhouse.
We opened some of those with our very good friend Nick Cowan from Surf Ninjas. He's a big Pee Wee Herman. Those are so fun. That's a great pack of cards.
One sheet of tattoos, three pinball
Stickers.
cards, a sticker. Is there gum in here?
I don't think so.
Okay. Then I have this pack of Robin Hood Prince of Thieves.
Those are great. There's only one Alan Rickman card in that entire thing.
Do you think this is worth something?
It's not.
Okay.
But I can give you some more if you want. Our good
Uh,
friend Bob Shaw sent us a box of those to open. So I
I've
have
got
them.
2 packages of Who Framed Roger Rabbit,
I have
and
not opened those before.
these do have bubble gum
They
inside.
do. Bubblegum and a sticker because that would be
And this
tops 88, right?
special sticker, yeah.
Mhm.
And then these are really cool. The Rocketeer.
Rocketeer cards.
2 packs
Nice.
of the Rocketeer cards.
Yeah.
So I bought these with no intention of ever opening them, but
Yeah,
like,
sealed product. Those are great.
what am I holding on to them for? I don't know if you know this about me. I'm a collector.
It's one of the things I love about you.
Yeah, like I just my whole life I've been collecting. So as a little girl, it was stickers, and then I had a little time collecting like rocks and gemstones. I have I collect postcards. So I
You
love
do like vintage postcards and Valentine's, right? Like that's a
I
big
have
thing you
a
do.
vintage Valentine collection. Postcards, I like my collections for postcards are from all over the world that people have sent me. So I have a box like this big full of postcards that people have sent me my lifetime. I collect Barbies. I
I literally have on my list of things to talk about. So here's what I have is Cory Casella, fashion slash swimwear, pinball wizard, nerdy Lord of the Rings, She-Ra, Barbie collecting. Those are things I have on my lists of things to talk to you about.
So that actually is a great segue into the next thing I wanted to tell you, which might upset you, but you have given me some very cool She-Ra stuff over the last couple of years,
Mhm.
and recently you got kind of what's the word I'm looking for? You kind of got blown away by someone else gifting me something She-Ra, and it is a 20-inch She-Ra action figure.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. That's by
The
Mattel. Is that the one that came with Swiftwind?
the Comic-Con one, I believe.
Yeah, the Mattel Comic Con exclusive.
It came in this giant box.
Yeah, is there a Swiftwind in there too? The horse?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So I did
She is away. Yeah.
like look at how big this thing is.
Yeah, it's big. So if you don't understand, she's holding up a very, very large that She-Ra, Princess of Power. I believe that's a San Diego Comic Con exclusive, but that is a great, great piece that she's got there. It's roughly the size of like a little bit bigger than a Barbie.
It's a 20-inch collectible, and
Well, the toy itself is 20 inches tall,
I think
or is
so.
the box 20 inches?
I don't know. I got my
We don't
measuring.
know. It's okay. You don't have to go over there. That's so cool, though.
So, but you know what's funny is this was gifted to me by a friend of ours from League, Mayumi, and she was in my apartment and saw the last animation cell that you had given me.
The
And
cowl one.
yes, and she said, "I didn't know you liked Shira." And I was like, "I love Shira." And then she surprised me with that as a gift.
That's so sweet. Yeah, I got you for your birthday. I got you a pencil, like the pencil drawings that they use to make the animation cells of.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Which is very, very cool. I haven't hung it up yet. It's on my list of things I need to do.
I'm not stressing about that. I have so much art frame that I have not
And
hung up. Don't worry about
as
that.
you can see, there's not much wall space in this
Yeah.
room, but it is on my list to get up when I find the perfect space for it. So
Oh yeah. A big shout out to Bobby Opulent would like to offer Jeff a nice brioche bun in this trying time. Funny story. I hate a brioche bun. I think they're trash.
I don't really like brioche buns either.
Thank you. Thank you, Cory.
You know what else I don't like? Sourdough.
I like sourdough as toast. And my roommate, it's like the only bread that tastes good to her now because COVID messed up her
Hmm.
taste buds. So like sometimes I'll have like half a PB&J on sourdough and people are like, that is an insane thing to have.
I mean, it's like I feel like living in California, the only bread we ever get is sourdough, and I'm over it.
Fair. I mean, the pandemic really made everybody's sourdough starters go wild. So I understand that.
Mm.
A big shout out to Porcelain Jesus. A shout out to David Knifeboot Hinson, Lemming Malloy. The To Be Terror Bunnies thinks you should watch the Puss in Boots sequel. It's surprisingly good.
Like from Shrek?
Yeah, the one that came out a couple years back. That's supposed to be like this really. It's supposed to be incredible. I've heard amazing things, like Paddington. You know, like
No, stop
you had
it.
no clue. No, it's. I think it's sitting at like 100%.
Nothing is like Paddington. Get
Well,
out of
it's
here.
things can be a lot like Paddington.
I'm sorry. No.
Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, has a 95% Rotten Tomato score. It's like apparently really great. And apparently the To Be Terror Bunny thinks we should watch it. So we should watch it. A huge shout out to Mr. Billy Beck, whose wife I just bumped into at Blast from the Past not too long ago. And a big shout out to Burrito, my best friend. Aldo Vargas is adding Jeff Has Cool Friends producer to his resume. Folks, do it. I will lie to prospective employers. I will make shit up in a big way. A big shout out to that scene in Lost City where Brad Pitt dies. A big shout out to Sweet Keel. And finally, I'm going to start calling Yoda Old Grogu just to see what happens.
Did Brad Pitt die in Lost City?
And not only did he die, but that scene where he dies is a
I
producer of this show.
I don't remember him dying in that movie.
Yeah, this used to be the scene in Meet Joe Black where Brad Pitt dies, but it got updated.
So I actually had a Lost City Halloween costume a few years ago where
I'm
I went.
sorry, what?
We're talking about the Sandra Bullock movie, right?
I think so. I don't know.
Yeah, I went as Sandra Bullock in her purple sequin jumpsuit and with her hair all disheveled because that's what she's wearing through the whole movie.
Mhm.
And I had like a little prop.
Oh, this is the one with Channing Tatum and
Yeah,
oh, okay, yeah.
that's a great movie, by the way. It's really, really fun. I mean, I prefer the original, Romancing the Stone, but
Romancing the Stone's pretty great.
yeah. But I did go as Sandy from Lost City a couple years ago for Halloween.
Oh, that's so fun.
But I don't remember Brad Pitt dying in that movie.
Maybe he didn't. Maybe this person is testing to see whether or not I've actually seen the movie. And spoiler alert, I have not.
Hmm.
Daniel Radcliffe's in that movie.
Oh yeah, he's the bad guy.
Oh, is he? I like him. What a little weirdo. I have a conspiracy theory about him.
Okay.
I think the producers of the Harry Potter franchise did something to stunt his growth.
Oh,
So he would stay child sized for the main maintenance of that entire series.
so you did hear the news, the pinball news, right?
I did. So is it Jersey Jack? Pinball is making a Harry Potter pinball. Didn't people like boo the announcement?
I mean, I hope so.
Yeah.
I personally don't want to give any quarters to someone who's anti-trans, but
Yeah.
that's my personal opinion on it.
No, I'm with you 100%. I mean, it's to say it's not still a massive product is a bit silly, I guess. But like, yeah, I understand that as well. Like
Well,
I'm with you on that.
yeah, I mean, it's like being able to separate the art from the artist when the artist is a bigot. It,
It
and
makes it tougher, yeah.
it makes it tough, especially knowing that all licensing deals are still money in her pocket.
You
So,
know what's funny is I don't think she makes any money off of Universal.
how's that possible?
I don't even know. I had asked somebody about that, and they were like, "It's actually like a separate process or whatever." I have no clue. It might be that they go through like Warner or whoever. I don't really know the gist.
Yeah, I mean, maybe she sold the rights on the front end and was like, these are, this is what
Yeah,
I need. And
yeah. I don't know enough to back that up, but yeah.
who am I to speculate? I don't know.
You are a bit of a pinball wizard. You play pinball all the time. Your social life is oftentimes pinball tournament weekend based.
Yes, I don't particularly care for the term pinball wizard when describing myself because I am not
Oh,
necessarily
yeah,
wizard
that's not about you. I'm calling you that.
status. But yes, that is pretty much all I do in my personal life is play pinball, and it's exhausting, but I love it.
Yeah. I mean, so how'd you get into pinball?
When I moved to Los Angeles almost 8 years ago now, I didn't know anybody. I didn't know a single person in LA. I kind of just moved on my own for this job and didn't have any friends or family out here, which is like a really big deal.
I had one friend out
Yeah.
here.
So then you can relate.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's really hard. It's hard to in your adult life. Like that's the other thing too, is like, 8 years ago, I was in my 30s when I moved out here. And that's a
I
hard
was
time
30.
to make friends. And Los Angeles is a very difficult city to make friends in. I find it to be a very isolating city. But I had a friend of a friend, one of my best friends from New York, had another really close best friend in LA, and she had said, you two should hang out, you'll really hit it off. And I kind of knew her. We actually lived in Brooklyn at the same time, one block away from each other, and would see each other
Oh,
sometimes, kind of like not on the street, but we never really hung out. We just knew of each other through our friend. And so when I moved out here, I got in touch with her, and she had said, if you want to hang out, I like to play pinball at this bar called 82. So do you want to meet there and go play pinball? And so I'm the type of person that's down for anything at any time. Anytime I've joined so many weird leagues and clubs and whatever, just because I love having something to do. So I met her at 82 and we played some pinball and we had a really good time. And I was like, this is fun. And I'd never really played pinball before.
oh,
And
really?
yeah, no, it was never, I mean, and it's funny because there's so many places to play in New York, but it wasn't on my radar. I was actually on a competitive skee ball team in New York, and
That's the most New York ass thing I've ever heard.
we were called the Flock of Skee Balls, and we made it to the city champs 3 times, which took place in the basement of a Brother Jimmy's.
So are you a skee ball like ringer or have you lost it?
No, I mean, that was years ago, and I was only really good when I was drunk,
Oh,
which
I'm out of the game.
was such a, yeah,
Yeah.
no, those days are behind me.
Like the
Uh,
John Wick of skee ball. You've got all your skee balls cemented into a floor.
no, we
I'm not
we
that guy anymore.
We were very good, but it was more about the social drinking, etc. So I started playing pinball with my friend Caitlin, and she had been telling me that she was, studying it. She was watching videos, she was trying to learn rules, and I was like, there's rules to this? Like I
Yeah, I
thought
thought
you
I just smashed the
yeah,
ball with
yeah,
the
I
yeah.
thought you just don't let the ball drain. And she had said, there's a league that takes place here at 82, but I don't feel comfortable joining because I don't know anybody. And I said, I'll join with you. Like it wasn't even a hesitation. It was like a,
It's so hard to be alone and join something.
yeah,
It really is. Like I don't think people understand the act of bravery it is to sign up for something alone.
yeah. I mean, there's different levels. Like obviously people have different personality traits, and some people are more comfortable doing things alone than others. And she had kind of said, like, I wish I had someone to do it with. And I didn't even hesitate. I said, I'll do it. I'll join with you. And then we didn't even know when the league played. Like we didn't know anything about it. We just knew there was a league. And so we started going to 82 every week and playing pinball. And Caitlin would go home and she would watch videos. And then we'd
Wow.
meet up at 82 and she'd say, this is what I learned. And then we'd talk it out and then we'd try to do what she learned. And I was at that stage where I was like, I'm not going to watch a video. Let's be real.
Do you watch videos now to learn stuff?
Oh, yeah, all the time. It's like
Okay.
really, I watch a
That's
lot of,
why, because like we'll play and you'll be like, here's the way to do this, and this. And I was like, I've
yeah,
already forgotten what you said.
I watch a lot of live streams. And then if I will watch videos in advance of big competitions and big tournaments. So like before state champs, they'll release the list of games and then I'll be studying them and being like, okay, this is what I need to do on the shadow because I don't really know the rules of the shadow because there's no place to play it around
But
here.
it has
So
a gun plunger,
it does.
gunter. It has a
Yeah.
pistol.
That's how I learned what a diverter was on the shadow actually.
What's a diverter?
Don't ask me to explain it. I am really not.
Okay. All right. We'll just let everybody not know what the hell you're
Yeah,
talking
so
about.
so a diverter is, again, I'm probably going to sound like an idiot, but it is a mechanism that will change the path of the ball. So on that particular game, the diverter will shift where the ball goes when you shoot it up a ramp, whether it comes out on this side or that side.
Okay.
There's a diverter on rush, so that is what the center button does. It changes where the ball comes out of when you shoot the
I
ramp.
had no clue about that.
Yeah, that action button does nothing except change where the ball comes out of. So it's always flashing and you're always hitting it, but like there's no reason for you to be hitting it. Like,
So for those of you that don't know, the action button is a relatively recent invention in pinball, all things considered, where it's you'll notice like a button right in front of you below your chin, right? It's like on that little front spot, there's a little button, and sometimes that action button does something like it'll trigger like a hit or something like that. But so this one, it's just to like change the
yeah,
plan.
where the ball's coming.
Oh,
I,
that's really interesting. I didn't know that.
yeah, and I hate talking about things like this because there's always people that know more than me, and then like,
Yeah, but we're going for the basic simplicity. And
sure,
also, if you're one of those, if you're listening to this and you're going to be pedantic about this, off.
there's a lot of those like nerds that are like, actually,
Yeah,
well,
this isn't an actually podcast.
that's
That
not
podcast is called actually.
that's not what that's called, and that's not what that does, and you must be a real idiot. And like, and it's a little bit frustrating because as a woman, I get that a lot where there's always someone talking to me like they know more than me. And I'm the first to admit that I don't know everything. When I do streams, when I do pinball streams, I'm always saying like this is my understanding. If this isn't correct, let me know in the chat because there's always someone in the chat
Oh.
that knows more and
Yeah.
they're like quick to tell you that they know more.
See, this is where you and I, this is the road in the wood in which we divert
Uh-huh.
because I'm just like, I'm saying my information. And if you want to correct me, go yourself. And that's just fun.
Yeah. So okay, we like really again another tangent. So I started playing pinball with my friend Caitlin, and we would go to 82 every week and play what she learned or what she knew. She would tell me, and then I would try to learn it. And then sometimes we would just go and like be like, all right, tonight we're just gonna focus on hitting that left ramp. And we'd put tokens into the machine or quarters at the time. They didn't take tokens at 82 yet. And we'd pick a game that we struggled with and just shoot that ramp. Like not try to play a game, just focus
Try to
on.
know where the ball is on, like, because there's oftentimes along the flippers there's patterns, designs, images where you can be like, all right, well, if you send it up at this guy's jaw, like it'll hit that ramp or whatever on this specific table. Because that's the other thing too, right? Like if you a table at like a place like 82 is going to be at a slightly different level than a table at a place like Ace Gogi, which is where we have in Van Nuys, which is where we have our league.
Yeah.
So then like that changes the whole play of the field a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was one night, it was a Tuesday night, and we just happened to be there playing, and we started to realize like a crowd was forming, and we were like, oh my God, this must be it. This must be the league.
A league.
And we went and talked to the league director, who was a woman named Molly, and we were like, we want to join the league. Like it was like really so dorky because we were like a little scared. We were like, we want to
Yeah.
join the league. And she was like, okay, fine.
Yeah. Come on in the league. And you run that league now, right?
And yes, and now I run that league. So Molly started that league before 82 was ever open. She operated a little like shop called Pins and Needles, which
That was in like the Silver Lake area, right? It was like
I
records and
it
pinball,
was,
right?
so it was actually the front of the shop was a tailor shop,
Mhm.
and then the back was like a pinball warehouse,
Mhm.
which is why it was called Pins and Needles.
Uh,
But this was before my time. I that closed down, I think, before I ever even moved to Los Angeles. But if you don't know who Molly is an icon in the Los Angeles
yeah.
pinball history, let's say.
So everybody write it down.
So she ran the league, and then she had right around like 2018, 2019, she had decided that she was moving to the East Coast. And all of the machines at 82 were her machines at the time, and she wasn't planning on taking them with her. So she was going to leave them in 82 and then kind of be an operator from the other coast. And she had asked me if I would be interested in running that league when she left. And so I've been running that league with my co-director, Jim, who I'm not sure if you know Jim.
I've met Jim.
You've probably met Jim. So Jim and I have been running that league since 2019. So give or take 5 to 6 years. I mean, depending how COVID math works, but it's been really great because it's become a really big league. We have anywhere from like 45 to
Oh,
65
damn. Yeah, that's a lot of people.
participants. And 82 is a good place to kind of learn pinball because it's a little bit more of a casual setting. A lot of people come there as beginners, and then when they get more serious, they move on to other places or will continue to stay at 82.
So
But
this is good for our LA based listeners, right? Like
yeah,
if you're interested in pinball, you want to learn more, you want to have fun in a loose competitive level, the 82 league on Tuesday nights is definitely a good way to go.
yeah, I mean, it is the only league in Los Angeles that does not charge a single fee to the players. So you do not pay an entry fee to join the league. You do not pay an IFPA fee to be counted towards the results. The
That's
bar
the
pays.
International Federation of Pinball America. No, that doesn't make sense. What's
You're
IFPA mean?
You're really close. But the IFPA is basically the governing body of competitive pinball. And so all of the fees to play in the league at 82 are paid by the bar because the bar feels very strongly about promoting the community. And so the only thing you'll ever pay to play in the league is coin drop, which is tokens.
Right.
And every game is 50 cents. There was a brief moment where there was a new game and it was mistakenly put at $1, and the owners were like, this is a 50-cent bar. Every game is 50 cents. And it was quickly corrected. And we're actually very lucky because outside of Los Angeles, games are much more expensive to play.
Yeah.
We have so many options here where games are 50 cents.
Yeah. Priciest place I think would be like Revenge of, right? They might be. I don't know. Because I think like Ace Gogies are pretty affordable.
Ace Gogi is like when there's a brand new game, they'll charge 75 cents for
Yeah.
a little bit of time, or like a super premium like Bond 60th,
Yeah,
which
there's a James Bond 60th anniversary one that one's like it's like a $20,000 table.
yes, and that one's 75 cents. So even even the newest game is never more than 75 cents really. So we're very lucky in that regard. Waltz is 50 cents. I think most of the games at Barcade are 50 cents. 82, everything's 50 cents.
Yeah.
So it's pretty, we're very lucky.
Player
Anytime,
one might what we're saying is we're not in a pinball desert the
yeah.
way other places are. We're very lucky to have that. And I'm very grateful for that. And definitely hit up Corey's league, especially if you're in LA. Like it's great. It's fun.
Yes, it's a lot of fun. It's a good opportunity to get to know people. It's very social. It's a bar, there's a DJ. It's a fun time. So I recommend it. All skill levels are welcome. And
Yeah.
we don't charge you any money to play. You just come and play the games, put some tokens in, and we give out really fun trophies at the end of the season. So like that's kind of like Jim's bread and butter. He loves to pick out the silliest, funkiest trophy. We're doing an April Fool's Day tournament on Tuesday. Sorry, is it bad for me to plug my league
I
for a second?
mean, no, it's not. That's the point of that is your interest. So, like, if you're listening to this on release day, then on release day for the free feed, if you're a free feed listener and you're listening to this, there's April 1st. That's
So for April Fools, we're doing a one-handed tournament, which is super silly and fun, and the trophies are magicians. So it's like just
oh, nice.
goofy. just goofy shit. So it's a
Oh, that
fun.
sounds fun. So that is that league tournament, or is that anybody can go to that tournament?
Anybody can go to that, and anybody can join our league as well. We do have re attendance requirements in order to participate in finals and be eligible for a trophy. But if you come as a drop-in and you want to test it out, we'll get you in a group and you can play and see if you like it and come back if you,
Fun.
and if you don't, whatever, it's fine. It's free.
Lord of the Rings.
Yes,
You love Lord of the Rings.
I love Lord of the
Did you
Rings.
start with the movies or the books?
So I came from a Lord of the Rings family.
Okay.
My dad was really into Lord of the Rings and really into Tolkien. And fact is that when my mom and my dad were kind of dating early on in their lives, my dad had this pair of white jean bell bottoms, and my mom had embroidered them with the crows coming out of the cover of the book of the Two Towers
Oh, wow.
over the
That's
pocket.
so cool.
It's like very cool stuff. And when I was a little girl, my dad used to read The Hobbit as a bedtime story. So I grew up on the 70s Hobbit
Oh,
cartoon.
the Bakshi stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it was kind of like ingrained in my mind. And I hadn't read The Lord of the Rings when the movies came out, but when the Fellowship of the Ring came out, we went as a family. It was like we were probably opening night, and I just remember like the way that that movie moved me. And it was like I couldn't get enough of it. And it immediately I went home and read all of the books. Like it was like that. I don't know what I was waiting for because I, was a reader. I say was because
They're
these
big.
days.
They're big books. They're intimidating books. They're very thick.
Yeah, but no, I mean I'm saying like today I don't really read as much as I'd like to.
Well, yeah, you're playing
But
pinball all the time. When do you have time to do that?
but as in
Whenever,
high
by the way, side note, and I don't mean to interrupt here, but like whenever people talk about how like they read all these books, I'm like, where do you have that time?
I don't get it. I would read when I was commuting via subway. I would have like my little Kindle and I'd be reading on my Kindle. I actually had a really funny moment when I was commuting to work one day, and I'm a super nosy person. I love to pay attention to what's going on around me. Like what are people doing? And there's this woman sitting on the train, I think it was the L train, and I look down and I see that she's reading Return of the King. And so I'm like, where is she in this book? And she's like at the scene where Ewan is proclaiming that she's no man. And I'm like, this woman doesn't even know how iconic it's about to get. Like it's like this whole like
Nice.
and I'm like getting excited for her. I'm like, turn the page.
Yeah. Turn the page so you can see Sabrina's aunt stab that Witch King in the face.
So I actually don't know if you know this, but that is this tattoo that I have here.
You have a tattoo on your forearm.
Uh-huh.
It's Elvish, right?
Yes, it's Elvish script and it says, I am no man.
Oh, because she's Elvish, right?
No, it's
I know.
actually
I'm kidding.
nonsense.
I know
But
you're mixing the lore of the thing in a good and positive way. I was just kidding.
yeah, I mean, and it's also like it's the abridged movie version. Like,
Yeah,
this is another one of the, well, actually, that's not what she says. Yeah,
I
like,
know.
we know.
Do you
Come
know
on.
that they put Arwen in the Battle of Helm's Deep, and then they were like, nope, they took her out because and you can see her there. They actually you can see her like in the background of a couple shots.
I'm gonna tell you, like, I consider the Lord of the Rings movies mostly flawless, but my biggest criticism of what Peter Jackson did was making Arwen's character as big as she was in this trilogy, because in the books, she's much more of like a background character and part of the lore, and she's not who helped Frodo escape. And it's like all of these
Yeah,
things
I
where
mean,
it's like
I guess I can say that giving a second woman something to do isn't the worst.
Yes, and at the time, I remember thinking like this is how they're drawing women into these movies is by taking a big famous actress and giving her a big part that women can get excited about. I'll say this, like my stance on feminism today in 2025 is much stronger than it was
Oh, okay.
20 years
So,
ago.
so you would have been like, don't change the color of the character. This Spider-Man's white.
No,
No,
no, no, no, definitely not.
you weren't like that?
Well, no, I mean
Not racist back then.
that's racism, not feminism. My stance on racism has always been firmly against. But I would say that
A bold choice, and I like it.
my yeah, yeah, my stance on feminism has evolved mainly in like the events that have happened over the last however many years where it was really, you know, as a white woman coming from an affluent town, you're not really forced to look at your privilege. And then I'd say like over the last 15 years or so, evaluating my privilege is something that I became
Understandable.
hyper conscious of, and learning more about intersectionality in feminism and like understanding that like when we're fighting for women's rights, we're not necessarily fighting for our own, we're fighting for
The
the
good of humanity for the most part too.
yeah, but also like, you know, me as a white woman has had it much easier than many women with different colored skin. And that's more what the intersectionality of feminism is, which is that like a lot of these things aren't necessarily affecting you, but you have to stand up for the people that are being affected. And then now today in 2025, like our rights are on the line. Like that's not something you can just turn a blind eye on, right?
Yeah,
So
that's fair enough, and that's a great point. And with like Lord of the Rings too, like I definitely see that, and I like that they can go close, but I don't think the story of Lord of the Rings is harmed by having Arwen do that. I just think it makes her a more interesting character for a man to be desperately in love with and to be his like his lighthouse, his beacon, his North Star. I think it makes it much more sense to have her instead of being just a demure wood elf.
yeah,
Um,
and
I guess that makes sense.
if I'm being very honest, I'm sure that my feelings towards Arwen were mostly rooted in jealousy because Aragorn in those movies is the hottest man to ever live. Like, and it doesn't even come close. Like, how did they make a man that hot?
Wasn't even supposed to be him too.
I know, and it's like so
Stuart
funny.
Townsend, right? Was he?
But that scene when he throws open the doors and it's just like, oh my God, I'm not okay, like watching that. And
That'll do something to you. I know. I got a little stiff on that one too. I was like, oh,
yeah, I mean like, and then you look at any other role he's ever done and you're like, this is Aragorn? Like this is the hottest man to ever live in a movie?
the Appaloosa guy.
Hidalgo?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Was it? Wait, was he in both of those, or am I?
I don't
What's
know.
Appaloosa? Did I just have like a mini stroke? I mean, to be fair, I know Hidalgo, but what's Appaloosa?
I'm not sure.
2008 film, Western crime, Ed Harris and Viggo Mortensen. Okay. This dude loves a horse movie. He's a horse boy. Yeah, he is interesting. When you see Viggo Mortensen like clean shaven and like with a regular dude haircut, you're like, all right. And then you see him as Aragorn, you're like, all right.
Yeah, that's
I get it. So you were more of a this was a question I was going to ask you in the later ones, but I'll say Aragorn over Legolas. Yeah.
no, well, no.
Oh, oh.
High school Corey was all Legolas. Like
Yeah. He seems like
really,
he'd be on an episode of Tiger on a cover of Tiger Beat.
I loved like a petite man. That was kind of my type, like a
Oh
little
wait,
yeah, like he's like a skinny little elf and watch him shoot a bow and arrow. Like
it,
that like got me going at
that was big at that time.
at
Yeah.
18 years old. And then he did Pirates of the Caribbean. And I was like, I love this man. This man is my soulmate. But now in my later years, it's way more Aragorn than Legolas. It just took me a little time to get there.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, he still kind of owns the internet from millennial female thirst. Like he
Orlando?
no, Aragorn.
Aragorn. Yeah, I mean,
Not
uh,
even Viggo Mortensen, but Aragorn
yeah,
does.
no, Aragorn. I won't talk about finding Vigo attractive, and that's not to say I don't find him attractive, but like when people are like, "Who's your celebrity crush?" I don't say Vigo,
He's
but
Aragorn.
I do say Aragorn.
He's royalty, so that makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I get it. That makes sense. I got to be honest. I could talk with you about this stuff forever. We are running out of time because I still have to get this edited, and we are recording this the night before release. So, Corey, we can find you on Instagram. Do you want me to say your Instagram account, or do you want to keep that?
Sure. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, we can find you at Cory Elizabeth C. That's CoryElizabethC. And so you can find you got really, really great stuff. You do a lot of pinball stuff, a lot of like really good happy fun time stuff. You've got swimwear, like you got a lot of really great stuff. You're a fun follow. I definitely suggest everybody follow Cory. What else should we be talking about here?
Hmm. Okay, well, so I was thinking about when I met Dre last week,
Yes.
and you guys were like, what would be the nerdy thing that we could talk about? And
Yeah,
I
we
was,
want to have you on the show.
what could it be? And then I started thinking we should do, if you haven't done it already, Legends of Zelda.
We did our first episode was Zelda 2.
Zelda 2. So I'm more Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom.
You just probably made him the happiest boy in the world.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna get a lot of messages tomorrow morning when I release this on the Patreon from Dre being like, "We're gonna set this up." It's gonna be like some kind of lore based thing. We'll figure it out because yeah, our first 3 episodes were Zelda 2, Mega Man 2, and Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, those were so we were trying to go deep diving on that.
Mega Man 2 is like one of the hardest games ever.
It's crazy too because if you listen to the episode we talk a lot about it. It was made as a side project because Mega Man was dead. They
Hmm.
like killed it because it didn't succeed, and then like it became this obviously very popular game by Capcom, but it was made in people's free time,
Yeah, that's crazy.
which is really, really great. So definitely check that out. Cory, you are so great. I'm going to keep you on. We're going to do a little Patreon exclusive content. If you want access to that, patreon.com/Jeff May. If you're listening to this for free, that means a lot to me. Thank you so much. If you want episodes early, uncensored, with bonus content, head on over to patreon.com/Jeff May, JEFFMAY. You not only get that, but you get early access to shows like Nerd, as we have discussed with Dre, as well as exclusives like Ugh Fine with Kim Crawl. I do lots of great stuff with Tom Ryman. With Adam Todd Brown, I do lots of great stuff on the You Don't Even Like podcast network. I do one great show with Tom Ryman on Gamefully Unemployed called Tom and Jeff Watch Batman. If you want to see me perform live, Mint on Card is the second Friday of every month. Blast from the Past in beautiful Magnolia in Burbank, California. Cory, thank you. Say goodbye to the freeloaders.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening to a lot of my nonsense.
We love your nonsense. Thank you so much. And stick around if you're a patron because we're going to talk about it a little bit more because you've got a lot to talk about.
Do I have to stick around?
I exclusively. Yes, that would make a real shitty episode if I'm like, here's your exclusive content. Cory left.
All right, I'll stick around.
Yes, thank you so much. All right, everybody, bye.
Bye.
Hey everyone, our artwork is created by Justin T. Brown, who can be found at Artness by Justin Brown on Instagram, as well as artnessbyjustinbrown.com. That dope music you heard is by Troy Nababon, available at Troy Nababon on Instagram, as well as at troynababon.com. Nababon is spelled Nababon.